enjoy. So I decided to do network marketing, and I did it for 4 years full time. I remember walking down the streets of New York City every day saying, "Excuse me, do you consider yourself an open-minded business person? I happen to be launching a brand new division of a $500 million company. I happen to be looking for a few key people." That is so ingrained in my head that even today I could say it without a hitch. But and it didn't work out the way I expected it to. Unfortunately, it was the wrong opportunity at the wrong time. But one of the things that I've come to learn in my life is that everything you do is a learning opportunity. It truly is. And although I didn't get the result that I wanted in that world, I learned a lot of things that were really key later on. I learned how to present to people. I learned how to take rejection. I learned how to lead generate. I learned how to vision and create a vision for people that didn't have a vision for themselves. I learned to believe in people. And I learned to hustle. I worked really, really hard. And in 1995, I'm sorry, that was 91, 1994, 95, I decided to go into real estate. My sister owned a real estate company. She was a big player, good salesperson, still is. And I joined her company because I saw a model. I saw somebody in Big Sister that was very successful, and I needed to make money. And I said, okay, if I do exactly what she does and follow that model, then I'll get the same results, which was accurate. I really did. She cared about me. She wasn't worried about me being more successful than she was. Her name is Jane Wells Schooley. She's still a business consultant and a very influential person in our community today. And that kind of for me was the beginning of my career in real estate. And I've always wanted to be in business for myself. Even when I worked for my parents' business, I saw it as my own business. It was a family business. I never really had a real job. I guess I never have. And when I got into real estate, I realized I was working for myself, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes you get into real estate because you think you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to have a lot of time, and you're going to be your own boss. But sometimes you realize that you're not a very good boss, And so I had to build my own self-leadership skills in order to make that successful. And my wife joined me a couple of years later. We were Max for 8 years. We sold about 50 units a year, and we were making a good life and a good living. And eventually, we came across another company that, for me, made more sense from the ability to leverage myself. Although I was selling a lot of real estate and making a lot of money, my life sucked. I was working all day, all night. I was doing 70 hours a week at least. And I was becoming pretty stressed. So we decided to start to build a team of people around us so that we could do the things that we were good at and maybe find some people and create opportunity for people to do things we weren't good at. And we ended up with a company called Keller Williams, which was at the time pretty much unknown. We joined a company that didn't exist. We didn't have a company in our area. We literally went looking for a franchise owner who would open a franchise so we could join it, which is a little backwards in our industry, but that's exactly really what happened. We ended up with 13 people looking for an owner, and we found a guy named Mike Campo, who I just liked. I mean, he's a big producer himself. He had already 2 successful companies. He had an assistant that was with him for 18 years, which kind of told me that this is somebody who values talent and will create space for talent. And we went into business together. And that was kind of the beginning of my shift from sales of real estate to company building and partnering on a high level with multiple people.
Yeah, what was great is that you went through a ton of stages, and I think that it's a testament to the One Life's kind of philosophy that we're always looking to learn and we're always growing, because you went through these stages of wanting to be your own boss, and then realizing that, wow, being your own boss is actually something different than a lot of people actually realize, and then kind of going into this lifestyle design where now you're you're now crafting your business, not just, you're not, as an early business owner, I was a slave to my business, or I would say that my business was running me as opposed to I was running my business. But you really took a step back and were proactive about that. So I'm curious for you, if you could go back into like those moments of change. You mentioned you came back to the US and you jumped into network marketing, or there's all these people who have these opportunities, and whether it's network marketing or running an online business or going into real estate, or I mean, the opportunities out there are endless, but it's the leap, the decision that it takes, and then the commitment that you made to go out and talk to everybody and pitch them on your business opportunity. So was that decision like easy for you? I mean, what kind of compelled you when entrepreneurship and business, running a business back then was not the norm. It was not the sexy thing that it is today. So what was that process like? And, was there challenges with family or with your lifestyle? Or, I mean, like, how did that go, given that you were kind of going to be jumping into this new thing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would have to thank my wife, Usha Patel, for being a saint on earth, because she's put up with more crazy stuff from me than I can ever imagine anybody dealing with. I have a very high basic human need for uncertainty, and that doesn't necessarily bode well for people that don't, and she does not. But, I think that I've always, even from being young, I've always been somewhat entrepreneurial. So I've always looked for ways to be in control of my destiny and control of my life, one way or the other. I mean, it was interesting because when we lived in Saudi Arabia together, we had enormous latitude. I mean, we got paid a lot, but we really had latitude to do what we felt was necessary to do our jobs there. She was a nurse and I was a course developer. And I kind of showed up when I wanted to, left when I wanted to. We took a lot of vacations. They paid for our flights. They paid for everything. And, coming out of that environment, you come back to the United States and you say, wow, what am I going to give that up? Now am I going to go backwards and get a job and work for somebody else and have them dictate pretty much what my life is going to be and decide what my future is going to be? And that just wasn't an option. So it really was never an option to look at something other than something entrepreneurial. And, we'd both been scuba instructors before in Saudi Arabia. We had a scuba diving business on the Red Sea. So we lead generated for that business, and we learned a lot about presenting to people and training and teaching people there. So what we learned there was kind of a good segue into the network marketing world, because some of those same skill sets come in really handy there. But it was really in network marketing that clicked in my head about time freedom. And from that point forward, regardless of what I brought away from that industry, that never left me. So every decision that I've made from a business or professional perspective from that time has always been focused on the creation of wealth and the creation of financial independence and being able to do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. And Hector, that changes the decisions you make vastly. When you hit these decisions, I guess our destiny is shaped in the moment of decision, right? And you hit these points where you can decide A or B, which path that you're going to take. If you don't have a crystal clear vision for what your lifestyle is going to be in 5 or 10 or 20 years, that decision is a really hard one, But if you have a crystal clear idea of what you want your life to be, and you look at it every day and you say, that's what I want my world to be, my relationships, my business, my time, my health. If you know exactly what you want, those decisions are easy, And when I went into real estate, saying, I got to work hard right now because I got to generate revenue right now. But it never left my mind that the end game was financial independence. That's why I was doing it. So when I had that opportunity to move from real estate sales to be the CEO of a company, my first company was in Allentown that I had an opportunity to launch. it was an easy decision because I realized that that was the direction that was probably the shortest path for me based on my skill sets to go and move closer and closer toward financial independence.
You made it's just great. I want to bring in some of our comments from our live viewers. Sam Weggert says that he wants to thank you for being an example to so many, and he thanks God for Usha, is what he said.
Yeah, I thank God for Sam. He's a wonderful guy. He's a very good friend too.
So let's jump into that second stage of kind of transformation, which was now going into creating a business that isn't ran by you, or a business that I think one of the foundational business books, I think we've talked about it, was the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, being able to get out of the bakery, if you will. But now, not only were you able to take yourself out of the bakery, but you were able to start multiple bakeries, and you were able to start and run multiple bakeries and hand it off. And so I think that for a lot of people may seem like this very difficult process, but you've kind of created a recipe, if you will, or in your head, it seems to be like this very clear kind of recipe. So can you talk about maybe you can share, a story of a business or a business owner, even if it was yourself, who realized that their business was running them, and then how they actually made changes to now, like I don't know if we were on air when we talked about it, but start doing the things that we actually love, as opposed to the things that we're just trying to do for money.
Yeah, first of all, I think that sometimes when you look at somebody's accomplished something, anything, sometimes we think that they did it by themselves, and I think it's important to realize that they very rarely have. There is almost always a team of people that are a part of any great success. If you're going to achieve something at a high level, then you're going to need to surround yourself with tremendous people. And I have amazing partners. Mike Campo, my original partner, is, without his guidance and without his mentorship, I would not be where I am today. Sean Morrow is an incredible operator that I feel very, very honored to be in business with. Tony Caracaza is also an incredibly talented guy. Usha Patel, my wife, is a coach of coaches and an incredible. And Karen Shive actually knows all about the numbers and keeps us on point. So when you look at what we've created, we have 10 companies that last year I think closed close to $3 billion. You have to understand that our core leadership team is not only really talented, but we're really friends, and we work pretty well together. And we have 40 people on the market center level that are leadership teams that run those companies also. So who you're in business with matters. And I think that when I made an original decision to go into business, there were two things that mattered to me in order to move from working really hard and not getting the result I wanted to creating leverage and creating wealth. One was the vehicle. You have to have a vehicle that can actually take you where you want to go. And two is who you're in business with matters. Who else is in the vehicle? Because the vehicle itself is not enough. You need the people in the vehicle, and then you could go anywhere you really want to go. So I think in the early stages, the decision to align myself with a franchise that was very not only willing to create opportunity for leadership and whether they be entrepreneurial leaders, managerial leaders, or the talented producers, the company was willing to create opportunity for anyone across the board. That's really powerful. But I also had an opportunity to be in business with people that I really liked and I really trusted, that we could say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it together. We're going to do whatever it takes to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And I think those two together are a huge win. I don't know if that went where you wanted it to go.
Yeah,
If I answered that right question.
I have a follow-up question to that, and that's
Sure.
you spit off all these kind of amazing just talents that these people had. And I'm curious, when you look into a business, or when you look into maybe any type of operation or organization, what are the key components that each of those people fill? You talked about Usha being a coach, and someone knowing the numbers, but when you think about what are those kind of pillars, if you will,
Yeah.
in your head, what are the fundamentals?
I first of all, you have an entrepreneurial leader, and I'm borrowing a little from Tony Robbins. I learned a long time ago, and I've used it ever since then. It's a great effect, but there always has to be the entrepreneurial leader, the person who's willing to take the risk and spend the money and lose everything and do it again. They're the people that'll put their money and their house on the line, and willing to take big risks. And they love launching stuff from scratch. They love putting stuff together that doesn't exist, and just getting it together and pushing it. And that's somebody that's vital. You also need a managerial leader, and they're not usually the same person. A managerial leader is not necessarily someone who enjoys launching things from scratch and creating something from nothing, but a managerial leader can be very, very passionate about taking something that exists and making it fabulous. Jack Welch would be an example of a managerial leader from General Electric, probably one of the greatest leaders the United States has ever produced. But Jack was probably more of a managerial leader than an entrepreneurial leader, where Richard Branson would be the entrepreneurial leader, right? And then you have the talented producers, the people that actually do the work, the people that actually make stuff happen, the design engineers, and the in the real estate world, that would be a mega agent, the people that actually sell huge amounts of real estate. And if you could find a company owner, right, to have ownership in a company, and you could find a managerial leader to have ownership in a company, and then you could find talented producers that have ownership in the company, and each one of those three key personalities have ownership in the company and I'll have skin in the game, you can create enormous synergy and an enormous outcome. For us, Mike is the entrepreneurial leader. Tony and I and Sean are managerial leaders. Karen is definitely a talented producer. She's a financial wizard. And Usha is a combination of talented producer and managerial leader, I think. And together, we all kind of bring our talents together and say, okay, what do we love to do? What do we do best? And we try to continue to stay in those areas that are really our core competencies, versus trying to do everything. We're very compartmentalized in Keystone Partners Group. We do what we do, and our partners do what they do. But together, it looks like one mega person. But really, it's just a lot of normal human beings that together achieve a lot more than they could as they could separately.
That's I think that's a great way to look at it. And I remember you talking about those concepts at the Wealth Building Summit in Philadelphia. So I'm gonna have to dig back in, because I've had some massive changes in my business since our last conversation. Let's finish up and let's talk about this vision, because you're at a point where we talked about Tim. Tim talked about, he said, Bob Wells, quote, you made it in this, that you are, that it's going to be you. So what is, your vision has probably changed quite a bit. You mentioned at the beginning that you were doing it for financial independence, and now that you have kind of hit that stage that you've had to readjust your sightlines and you've had to set a new course. So I'd love to hear what your journey has been about vision, about your vision, and kind of what the different stages of that has looked like, and if you could share a little bit about what its current stage is. I know you're working on a ton of different stuff, so if you could share a little bit about vision and kind of end with what you got going on. And I know you and Usha are impacting the world in tons of different ways, so it'd be great to hear about what you guys are doing.
It's interesting that Tim chimed in there, because Tim Rhodes helped me a lot in this area. He's kind of worked with me to understand that transition from being an operator involved in everything to being more of a person that's passionately involved in just a few things they really love. And but that's a 2-hour conversation, but I'll boil it down quickly. For many years, I've always created reality boards for my life. Um, yeah, usually in November, I would create what my year would look like, and it would be visual representations of my physical being, my emotions, meaning, um, my relationships, my time, my business, my personal wealth, contribution, celebration, and spirituality were all visually depicted on one board. And I figured, okay, it's 2017 in the middle, end of 2017. This is what my 2018 is going to look like at the end, right? Um, Over the years, it's actually moved beyond that. Now I have an ultimate reality board, which a lot of people do. What I ultimately want my vision for my life to be. But I now have a 6-year reality board where each year, and it's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, is individually visualized. And everything that has to happen in 18 is there to manifest what I want to happen in 23. So, I've honestly, I've never seen anyone do this before. It's not an idea I got from somebody else. It's just something I found to be really exciting for me. And it's basically laid out over two 11 by 17 sheets, 3 years on one and 3 years on the other. But it gives me enormous clarity, and not just in business, but in every area of life. And it also helps to make sure that we don't get so focused on one area of our life that other areas of our life suffer. I mean, certainly, it's so easy to get wrapped up in business and focus entirely on business that other areas of your life start to deteriorate. And, unfortunately, those other areas that deteriorate come back to bite us in terms of our business. So, if we're not, we can't focus on growing every area of our life all the time at a really high level. But even though we might focus on one or two areas in a given year, the rest of them have to be maintained to make sure that we have a balanced life. And that's been something that I've worked at pretty hard over the years, and I continue to do that, and I'll always continue to do that.
I'm curious for you, like what were some of the things that you had to, I know one of the conversations we had was kind of talking about the things that we shouldn't be doing, as opposed to just when I was first started my very first business, I was 19 years old, and I remember wanting to take out the trash. I told my assistant, no, it's my business, I'll take out the trash. And that mindset just bled into everything else that I did. So for you, what were some of the things that you had to be willing to give up, or what were some of the things that you had to find other people in, or even what kind of roles did you find yourself filling for other people? Because I think that is a big piece that a lot of people don't want to give up, that control, not realizing that they're actually going to get more back when they do, relinquish whatever it is that they, are thinking is control.
Yeah, I guess that's changed over the years. As when I was a CEO of a company, I obviously had a lot of leverage, and that was a real clear picture for me about exactly what I don't do. And there was a long list of the things that I didn't do, because there were only two things that really mattered at that time. And number one was building the company, and number two was building the people. So anything that didn't involve building the company or building the people, I didn't do. And I've been very blessed to have an opportunity to launch, relaunch, or acquire 8 different companies. And in each case, there was always a different scenario. Sometimes I was like the only guy there, so I was doing a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do. And as soon as the company starts to develop and you have more and more leverage, then you have to very, very quickly pare those things away. Now I don't know. These days, I focus on just a couple of things. Number one, I love to work with talent. I love to career vision talent. So when we hire top leadership, I love to be involved in that process, and especially develop people toward becoming a top leader. That's a big thing for me. I also teach financial mastery. It's my probably biggest passion at this point in my life. I like to teach groups of people how to go from struggling with their own personal finances to becoming financially independent. It's a lot of fun for me, and I think it's a huge value. I don't think we learn that in our society today, and I think there's just such a need for it. And also, I enjoy branding and marketing. I have a a video-based show called The Get Real Show, and my wife has a show called The Path. We interview mega agents and new agents and their coaches to find out exactly why they're so different than the majority of people that enter an industry and sometimes don't find it to be successful. So we find the people that have made it successful and share what they and their coaches have done differently to ensure people that want to do that can do it in the future. So I love doing that too. Those three things are probably my top focuses right now, and everything else just goes by the wayside.
Well, I want to commend you, Bob, because before we started the interview, you talked about how you were going from being a business owner to a volunteer, essentially how you were putting it.
And I think all of us should eventually have a plan in our world to go from an operator, from a intense operator to an enthusiastic volunteer.
It's the ultimate promotion.
Yeah, and if you do it right, I think you can make that transition and eventually continue to add the same value as maybe you added before, but do it on terms that are more in line with having a life worth living. And I think it's really important that our focus should always be, hey, our business is, the purpose of business is to fund our perfect life, right? So if our business stands in the way of the funding of our perfect life, we have to find a way to maybe eventually transition from business to that perfect life, or even better, make the journey a perfect life, right? Which I've felt very blessed I've been able to do with being in business with such great people. It's been fun. It really has been fun. Just like this interview, Hector.
I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate you.
So Bob, you said Usha's show is called The Path and yours is called The Get Real Show. Are those available if agents are listening to this? I know we have a lot of agents in the world.
It's on our website called KPG Rocks, kpgrocks.com. And there's also a great series called On Point. There's some interviews. Actually, I'm interviewed by our regional director on thoughts on leadership, and there's some really cool stuff in there. I watched it and said, did I say that? And some of the stuff in there is really good. So if somebody wants to follow up this and learn a little bit more about how we think at our level, they can watch the On Point show as well from a leadership perspective.
I love it. kpgrocks.com. That's
it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Anybody wants to write me an email, ask me any questions, bobwells@kw.com.
bobwells@kw.com. I would take him up. I've had a conversation with him, and it was well worth its salt. Bob, like I said, I just so grateful that you took the time today, and you'll have to say hi to Usha for me. She's a wonderful soul, and I can't wait till we get connected again. The rest of you guys, if you guys are catching this, make sure you guys go and subscribe to the One Life Fully Lived YouTube page. That's where all of these will be hosted. And then if you're not in the One Life Mighty Networks, go join that as well, because we post all of these interviews in there. And I'm sure you can ask Bob some questions either through email, or we'll pull them in there so you can get some answers in there as well. The rest of you have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.